So there are a few terms I'd like to go through just to make your life a little bit easier before you begin the movement course. So these terms were not developed by me, they were developed by Dr. Andrea Ospina and Dr. Michael Chivers of the Functional Range Conditioning Group. So you'll see that these will be put into your program throughout your active mobility days. So that would be your day 1 hips and lower extremity day, your spine day, and also your upper extremity day. And then you'll see that your CARs, or your controlled articular rotations, will be your filler days when you're doing joint circles and practicing mindfulness. So beginning with our passive stretch, just so you guys know what I'm looking for, we're going to pretend we're doing our sleeper stretch, which you'll see come up in the program. So for our passive stretch, we have a few rules. Rule number 1 being we're never jamming into ranges of motion. All we're doing with our passive stretch is we're trying to identify first our active range of motion. So for here, we're working on shoulder internal rotation. So first thing I would do is identify what my active range of motion is. That's my end range. And then from there, I would create some light pressure down towards the table into internal rotation, but I'm not jamming or cranking, and the pressure is light to moderate. So I would hang here, and here I would proceed and do my diaphragmatic breathing for about 2 minutes, or the prescribed amount of time. Never jamming, always beginning by actively identifying my range of motion, then starting the passive component of the stretch. After our passive stretch, you'll see that we have our pales contractions and our rails contractions, both of which are contractions. Our pales contraction is always going against or doing the opposing muscle action that we're trying to achieve and trying to expand. So here, like we said, we're working on internal rotation. So our pales contraction, or the opposite movement, would be external rotation of the shoulder. So I've already done my passive stretch, my other hand's on top. At this point, for my pales contraction, I would be driving into my own hand into external rotation, but nothing's actually changing here, okay? Because my top hand is equaling out the strength of my bottom hand driving into external rotation. So I would hold the contraction for 10 to 15 seconds, or the prescribed amount of time, before I would go into my rails contraction. My rails contraction would be me trying to pull away from my own hand, trying to go deeper into shoulder internal rotation. So the movement we're trying to expand and gain more range of motion in. Same thing here, we'd hold for 10 to 15 seconds, or the prescribed amount of time, before repeating our pales and rails contractions and cycling through those two contractions back to back for the prescribed amount of reps. So again, passive stretch, actively pull yourself down, light pressure on top, 2 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing. From there, we proceed with our pales contraction against the range of motion we're trying to achieve, into our rails contraction, towards the range of motion we're trying to achieve. And then we're going to cycle between those two contractions back and forth for the prescribed amount of reps and sets that I have prescribed here. Our CARs are controlled articular rotations. So all those are our joint circles. So you'll see on our filler days or our movement days with our mindfulness days, that's when you're doing your joint circles. So that's literally just bringing your joint into its entire range of motion. So just so there's some clarity there, that's exactly what we're trying to achieve. So if you see these terms come up, now you know what they mean. Try that out.